This episode of Luthiers Lunch Break is supported by Radian Tools, and in it we've got building tips, advice and inspiration from Bonehead Guitars with an innovative wiring harness. Jim Goad gives us a tip on making sure your signal is clean, and Lab Musical Instruments is here to remind us of some safety elements in the workshop. There's some more everyday items turned into tools with Garland string instruments. Alex Fields, the Axe Angel, shows us a tip for making a rear cavity cover. Anka Custom Guitars is going to make sure your screws are nice and flush. We've got some homemade bridges from Footstep Guitars. There's tips for your rattly bridge posts from Can't Play Guitar, and Sinister Metal Guitars are going to show you how to stop your springs on your Floyd Rose from rattling. If you've got a dent in your fretboard, there's a tip from WKM Custom Guitars on how to fix that. And Lars Grape is back with his next instalment on fan fret design. In the description to this video there's links to all the contributors so you can go and follow their pages and see what else they're up to, as well as a link to Radian Tools, but more about them later.
Welcome to Bonehead Guitars. Let's go build some junk. Welcome to Bonehead Guitars. If you just got here from the channel, I'm doing a little thing today for Devil and Son's Luthiers Lunch Break about my little wire up jig. So you stick around for that. Otherwise, welcome to Luthiers Lunch Break with Ed Bonehead at Bonehead Guitars. So basically, this is an evolution of an idea you initially have, where you cut out a piece of cardboard that's about the size and shape of your cavity, so you can place your holes about in the same place that they're going to be for real, so you can lay out your controls so you can wire them up. I just went a step further and I made a plexi template, and then I decided that I would glue it onto another one where I had routed out routes for the pickups, and those routes have evolved over time, and I've had to poke a few extra holes here and there to accommodate different pickups. But essentially you can mount your pickups in this thing at about the space they would probably be at. You can mount your controls, and I just happened to put these rubber feet on it so that you flip it upside down and hover those pickups over the strings of any guitar anywhere. So once you get your wiring done, turn it over, you have access to all your controls. You can test everything out. Make sure it all works. I mean, really, those pickups just need to be in the proximity of strings. So this was a great way to test. So then all you really got to do is disconnect the pucks. So you get everything into the guitar. All right, time to test it out. There we go. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you found this useful. If you could make if you could make use of it, that'd be great. If you could make some innovations on it that we could all benefit from, that would be even better. But I don't know. I thought it was a pretty cool idea, and I've used it quite a bit. So hope it's useful to you. Anyway, thanks for hanging out for this Luthiers Lunch Break.
Guitar's sounding a bit lifeless. How often do people actually clean the output on their guitars? Not very often. I could state that. It can make a big difference to the connection and also a measurable difference on the pickups. If you get your multimeter on it before and afterwards and things that dirty, you will notice a difference.
This month's episode of Luthiers Lunch Break is supported by Radian Tools. Now, I've been using Radian router bits for a while now. I was upgrading from my initial cheap bits that I'd been using for years, and it was amazing what difference it made upgrading to better quality bits. So I was very happy to approach them and ask for this mutual support. When a company supports Luthiers Lunch Break, we mention them in the show and talk about how we use those products in guitar building. Today I'm going to talk about how to correctly feed your router, but also a little tip that Dan from Radiant Tools suggested, and in return they mention this show in their mail outs and a bit of social media. A bit of mutual support like we're doing with all the contributors in the show. So when you have your router pointing upwards because it's fixed in a table like this one, you want to make sure that you hold your guitar body or whatever it is you're routing between you and the router bit, and then you feed your wood from the right to the left. It's very straightforward. Make sure you always keep the wood between you and the router bit. So don't go all the way round the router bit, that'd be very dangerous. Instead, you can rotate your wood round as you're working. Now there is one thing to think about, which is chip out because of the grain direction of your wood. Now, that used to be a problem when I was using cheaper bits, and I haven't really noticed it since I've changed to Radian, but it's still something I always have in the back of my mind when I'm planning how to move my wood in relation to the router bit. But just quickly to say, if you're using a handheld router, a palm router or a plunge router, you want to hold the router between you and the wood to start with, and you move, instead of from right to left with the wood, you move the router from left to right. That means as you're going around your wood, you're going to be going around it anti-clockwise. Of course, if you're reaching over the body, you want to be super careful that you're not overextending your arms too much, and therefore you might not have control holding the router. So some people may want to move around the body themselves. But if you're working in a cavity, then you're going the other way. If you're working in a cavity, you're moving from right to left or going clockwise around the edge of the cavity. So that would be like if you're using a template to route a pickup cavity. Now let's just have a quick look at this bit of wood. You can see the direction of the grain and you can see the curve of the body. So now if the router enters at this point, it's potentially going against the grain. So how do we resolve that? Well, when I'm doing it on my router table, what I like to do, as I said, from right to left, until I get to a point where I think the router is going to be approaching the grain, the end of the grain. Then I'll skip that bit and carry on working round. And one of the great things about this router bit from Radian, and they sell a few like this, is it has a bearing at the top and the bottom, which means I can simply flip my guitar body and template over, and now I can still route in the same direction, right to left. But instead of going into the grain, I can go over the grain and pass over without risking any chip out. You could essentially do the same if it was handheld as well, just flipping the body with the template on. And this bit's specifically designed for guitar bodies. Look, it's just the right width for it, perfect. Now, one thing that's great about working with a company like Radiant Tools is the customer service. So it's really easy to get in contact with Dan, who runs it. And one thing Dan said he notices quite a lot is people don't have good enough support for their router, which means the router could tip like this as it's going around, particularly risky when you're going towards a neck pocket of a guitar. But one way around that is to make your own router bases or buy new ones. Dan said he 3D prints them. I make them like this out of acrylic. I just simply get a bit of acrylic. You don't want it to be too flexible, so I prefer 5 or 6 millimeters. Make a hole in the middle that's big enough for the router bits to go through. Basically, I use the same as the base of my router bit. I use the base of the router bit also to mark out where the holes go, which I then countersunk, and then I can screw it back onto the base of my router, and I've got a new router plate. I have them in different sizes. I made different ones depending on what I'm working on. As you can see here, it really stops that wobbling. Great. So go and check out Radian. I've got links in the description for them. Follow them on Instagram, check out their website, and say hi from me.
Alright, I think it's time to change the filter in my air filtration system, so let's take a look inside because last time I was pretty impressed. So as you can see, it is pretty dirty. I run this in my shop anytime I'm creating sawdust because I don't want my lungs to look like that. And just as a side note, I do run a dust collection system, so this is just the fine dust that gets up in the air that doesn't get caught by the dust collection system, and you can see how much there is and why this is so important to run. Alright, so let's open this up. There's just a clip here and here. Let's see what the 1 micron filter looks like. Not too bad. Most of it is definitely caught with a 5 micron filter. Alright, so let's take out the 1 micron and see the inside here. This has some foam around the outside to really make a good seal. And you can see that the back is clean. Inside, past the 1 micron filter, there's really not much at all. There's just a little bit down here and in the bottom, but like considering how much dust was on the outside, that's hardly anything. You can tell this is clean. So the air coming out of it is really clean, and this really helps get all of that dust out of the air. Alright, so I have a clean filter here. Shows which way to put it in with the airflow. If you have a workshop, I definitely recommend getting one of these because it takes all of the fine dust out of the air and it's really quick too. I have a basement workshop and that filter keeps the sawdust out of the rest of my house. It's really great. I used to always wear a dust mask all of the time in the workshop because there was so much sawdust just floating in the air. But with this running, it's just like a few seconds after I stop a tool or stop sanding and I can just see the dust disappearing from the air. I don't have to keep the mask on the whole time. There's not dust floating everywhere. It's not getting in my house. So if you do woodworking, I definitely recommend getting one of these filtration systems and using both of the filters, the 5 micron and the 1 micron.
Hello again everybody. I've got just a short single item for you this week, and it's mainly relevant to acoustic guitar builders or instrument makers, which I guess limits its appeal a bit, but anyway, here goes. You can see I've got a body on my bench, guitar body I mean, obviously, and it's an instrument I finished this time last year in time to take to the guitar show Italy in Padua. I'm going back again this year, but I'm touching up the French polish on the top of the guitar because there was a bit of scuffing and wear and tear from where people picked it up at the show and played it and so on. But I thought I'd take the opportunity while it's here of showing you something which I've found useful, and I think other people might too. So we acoustic builders quite often need to look inside our guitars, and I've got this extensible inspection mirror which has a little light on it. But you can see it's rather small. I'll show you inside the guitar in a moment. It doesn't give a lot of light. It's better than nothing for sure. So I'll show you inside the guitar and what I've done to improve matters. So here we are looking inside the guitar, and you can see, especially for your you know, looking at something where the lights can be fairly close, it's okay. It works reasonably well. I think the focus is all shot, actually. I'll try and get it in focus, but I think it's okay. That looks good. But if I want to look, say, right down to the tail of the guitar, the tail block, you know, I can't really see much down there. There's not enough light, basically. So what I've got here is just a little LED panel, battery powered, well, actually rechargeable. This was very cheap. I don't know where I got it, but you find this kind of thing everywhere these days. And it's very bright indeed. I think it may be meant to be some kind of bike light or something like that. But anyway, if I put this inside the guitar and the mirror back, you'll see just how much more light there is and how much better we can see. And the other thing, the other kind of enhancement I've made, if you like, is to, I'll just take it out again, is to glue a neodymium magnet on the back so that, oops, it's not good for the finish, so that I can put another magnet on the other side of the guitar, and I can then put the body upright if I want to. So I'll show you that. Here I've got another rare earth magnet. These ones are very strong indeed. So I'm going to switch the light on and put my hand inside the guitar and the magnet on the other side, and with a bit of luck you'll see that it holds its position inside the guitar without me. Okay, that's kind of cheating because it's resting on a brace, but I'll put it a little lower down, you'll see. But it stays there. So basically I can feed the mirror in from this angle if I want to for any reason. So here's the magnet just stuck on the back. It's held obviously by its counterpart on the inside, and this works very well. You can always stack magnets as well if you can't find one strong enough to hold the weight of the lamp on its own. So that was it. Well, there you have it. But doing this episode made me think of a few more things that I do with neodymium magnets, rare earth magnets. So in some future episode, I think I'll dedicate it to other uses of magnets around the workshop, or at least how I use them. Okay, so until next time, goodbye for now.
comment. I thought I would talk about bridges, and well, up until a few years ago, I was buying sort of bridges off the shelf, mainly fixed tail bridges or hard tail bridges, whatever you want to call them. But a couple of years ago, I took part in the Use What You've Got challenge, and well, as the name suggests, it was building a guitar using what you got, and I didn't have a bridge. So I thought I would make one, and well, that opened up a lot of possibilities for me. Now, for that guitar, I made a bridge in the shape of an oak leaf because it sort of went with the theme of the guitar. But since then, I've used the technique to make a couple of different custom bridges. And I'll be quite honest with you, it's quite an enjoyable thing to do. So I thought I'd share the process of making one of those bridges with you in this video. So I hope you enjoy. Now, keeping in line with the bird theme, Karen's come up with a feather bridge. There we go. Now then, I'm a bit fussy with bridges. You see, in my mind, it's really important that you can move the bridge back and forward to sort out intonation problems, but it's also important to be able to lift the bridge up and down to sort out the action. And of course, with this guitar, I need to think about having a piezo pickup. So I've spent the morning on SketchUp trying to come up with an idea, and I think I've got one. So here's the feather. So my idea is that we have a block of wood, which I'm going to probably cut out of the olive, which has a central piece that can lift up and down. This is going to be complicated because I think there's about 8 pieces to this bridge. So let's get on. First off, I need to cut out the shape of the bridge from this 2mm thick aluminium. Now, in actual fact, it will be a curved centre line, but I need to scribe 2 parallel lines. So I've just drawn a rough centre line for the purposes of this, and I'm just going to mark 2 parallel lines. Now I need to remove this centre piece, so I'm going to cut across each of these 2 lines and then hopefully end up with this little rectangle in the middle as a separate piece, and all will become clear later. I have 3 parts of this puzzle cut, so put that to one side a minute. Now I need to look for some wood, and I've marked this piece of wood up with this lovely grain. So this is more of the olive. Now I need to cut a piece out of some steel. I've now got all the components for this bridge. I just need to work out how to put it together. I've stuck this little piece down onto a board so I can hold it steady. Now this is going to be really fiddly because what I've got to do is embed this pickup. Now this metal plate is going to fit on the bottom of this piece of wood, so I need a hole for the wire to come through, and also need 2 holes on the ends which will be threaded, and that's where I'm going to use the bolts that are going to adjust the height of the bridge. Right, so this metal bracket there has been threaded, so that will go through there and onto the back of that. I need to drill some holes right the way through so that the adjustment bolts can appear at the top there. But I think I'm just going to put that to one side for a minute and concentrate on the back of this. Now this is the fixing bracket for this, the main part of the bridge. So these 2 pieces will be screwed to the bridge, and that will be screwed to the body of the guitar, and it'll just allow the bridge to be slid on. So Okay, so now this will be screwed to the guitar body, and the bridge then will just slide on and clip into place. Well, then it will go down that way. Now then, for the final piece of this puzzle, I need to drill 2 3mm holes in this piece of wood. I'm not quite done, but I'm getting there. So I've screwed this now onto the bottom of that wooden bracket. I'm not going to glue it because the pressure of the strings is going to push this wood down onto this metal bracket. You can see there's the 2 bits of metal that are screwed onto the bottom there, the bit of aluminium, and the screws will rest onto those. So that'll push that down there. Now obviously I need to adjust the length of those screws because they're a bit long, but you'll see the idea here is as I screw that down, so the bridge raises up, and if I release it, the bridge will go down. So my hand's gone very shaky with all this fine work. So that's the gist of it. Obviously I haven't finished yet because I've got to put something in there for the strings to run over. Okay, so I've put a little bit of fret wire in this metal vise here, and I've got my bridge spacing template just behind it, and I'm just going to mark where the strings need to be. I've got a fine needle file here, and I'm just going to do a mark at the position of each of these string positions. I've marked the string positions on this piece of fret wire. I now need to find the centre, just about there, and then mark the 2 ends, which I've just done that roughly, and I think that's about right. And what I'm going to do now is by hand draw a line around that curve. Just to be on the safe side, I've clamped it down and I'm going to let it set. Oh, and in the meantime, I'm going to clear up this mess. Well, I hope I've given you some ideas about making your own custom bridge. It's not as hard as it looks, and I think it's really worthwhile. So give it a go. And thanks for watching.
I want to let you know that you can find links to all of the different contributors in the video description below. Links off to their YouTube channels and their other social media pages and websites. There's also a link to a Luthiers Lunch Break playlist. You can subscribe to that to see all the past episodes and have notifications of the new ones. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to hit like, share this with your friends. You can give me a super thanks if you really like what I'm doing. But what would be great is if you subscribe to my channel, Devil & Sons Guitars. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Oh boy. So today in this tech tip installment, I'll be showing you a quick and easy little solution that will end all spring noise. So to begin, let's take a look at the tools we're going to need. So first off, we're going to need an X-Acto or hobby knife, and then second of all, we're going to need some type of foam. This is a polyethylene padding that I got from a pickup that I purchased. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to use our X-Acto knife and cut like a little foam padding that will be sitting underneath the springs just like this. And as you can see, you want to kind of pack it pretty tightly in there just so it's really crushing up against the springs. And you could also opt to have little inserts that you could also put inside the springs to add additional noise reduction. And there might be a little bit of a trial and error process with this, but I promise keep going with it and your springs will no longer be noisy. I'm going to be showing you yet another way that you can use springs on the back of your guitar. So now let's go over all the tools necessary to do this. So I'm using aquarium airline tubing, standard pair of scissors, and some measuring tape. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're actually going to measure the back of your spring to see how much airline tubing you're going to need. And for me, I need just a little under 3 inches to fit inside the spring. Next, you're going to measure out that amount of length on the airline tubing, and then you're going to proceed to cut that same length of the tubing. Once you have as many pieces of this as you need for the springs on your guitar, what you're going to do next is you're going to start shoving them into each respective spring. And the end result should look something like this, where it spans across the whole spring. Hopefully you found this useful, and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below.
This video we're gonna jump right in and we're gonna start on how to create the neck structure for your project. Okay, I'm gonna start to build this in a little more smaller way so you could actually see what I'm doing, but the process is the same, the measurements are just different. Now I'm gonna start with my center line as usual. Then perpendicular line. This is my bridge. Now we are gonna use the smaller of the scale length, which in my case are gonna be 16 centimeter, 60 centimeter. Now perpendicular line here. Here I need the measurement between the two outer string, which in reality will be 4.8. In this case will be 1.2, and here it will be 1.8. Now I'm going to connect the dots. I'm going to make the line, especially here where I'm going to go for a longer scale length. Make the line a little bit longer than needed, just lightly. These are my 1 and 8 string. I will already add the dimension of the neck. In my case will be 1 millimeter bigger than the string. In reality is 4 millimeter on both sides, likely for now. And now I need the position of my parallel frets. In my case will be at 4 centimeter from the nut. Here I can take my perpendicular line. This is gonna be my 5th fret. Then I need to know the distance between my longer scale length and the 5th fret, which in this case is 4.2. And here, with this point, I have my nuts. So now I can take this point right here where my high E string will touch the nut, and this point right here where my low F will touch the nut. Connect the two, then it's just a case to find the 24 frets, and if I want I can make this 1 millimeter longer already. I can measure from here and from here, and this is gonna be the end of my neck. This is gonna be the neck, and also I can find the position of the bridge for the longer scale length. This one. Take away the line that I don't need. And this is the neck for a multi-scale guitar, which in scale will be 25.5 inches for my smaller scale length and 27 inches for my longer scale length. In the next video, we're gonna talk about design the body.